For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mrs. Keese. I teach English Language Arts right down the hall for 6th grade. I know I have most of you all. Most of you know that my husband is from Poland, so I spend a lot of time there. We've been married for 10 years, so I speak a little Polish. I love the country, and when I heard you guys were talking about Eastern Europe, I volunteered. First I volunteered my husband. He was too busy with work, so I was like, I still want you guys to learn about it and get the inside scoop of things that I know and the culture there, so that's why I'm here today. So I'm happy to be here with you guys. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So Poland is a country in Eastern Europe, and this is actually the colors of their flag. The eagle is the white-tailed eagle is their national bird. So ours is the bald eagle. So we have a little bit of similarities there with our countries. Poland is known to be located at the heart of Europe, and its government is a republic, and the capital is Warsaw. So that's actually not the correct pronunciation. My husband would be like, it's Warszawa, which is very hard to say, so Warsaw is definitely easier. Their official language is Polish, and it's about 2.2 times smaller than Texas, to give you an idea of how big Poland is. Their national flowers, ours, like Georgetown, the red poppy, and I already said their national bird is the white-tailed eagle.
13.1 million.
Yes, oh yeah, I did forget to say that. So even though they're a smaller country than our state, they have a lot more people. They have 13.1 million more people who live in Poland. So lots of people. This is a map here. Obviously you have a map here, but I wanted to show you its location right along the Baltic Sea here. And then we'll zoom in a little bit. So I wanted to show you this because I'll be talking to you a little bit about the geography of Poland. So when I go, I spend a lot of time right up here in Gdańsk and Gdynia, which is right on the Baltic Sea. And I'll also be talking to you a little bit about a town called Zakopane, which they have a lot of mountains there. That's one of the biggest differences between Texas, our state, and their country. So how many of you, when you hear about Poland, do you think about the sea? Does that come to mind?
No.
What do you think about, like, it being really cold?
Foggy.
Yeah, so when I first went, I was shocked to find out that they had beach towns, and they're beautiful.
Whoa.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about the language. So the language is, here's their alphabet. They have 32 letters in their alphabet as opposed to our 26 letters. All right, I am going to try to explain these letters. So we have A, which is A, and then here's a second A, which sounds like ow, and then B, C, and then set, and then D, E, and then this makes it sound ow. Most of it's similar. They have a few extra letters, obviously, but this one is the one I wanted to point out to you. This is their W, and so my husband's name is Lucas, but you pronounce it Łukasz, and you spell it with, it looks like an L, but it has a slash. That's their W. You will see our W, it looks like a W to us, but for them, that's their V. So those are two main differences in our alphabets. You might also notice that they have 3 Z's in their alphabet, and they all make a different sound. So Z, 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 and if you look down here, there's DZ, another DZ, and they all sound very similar unless you are a native speaker of Poland. It's a lot of Z, Z, Z sounds. You will also see this makes a ch sound, and this makes a sh sound. Yes, yeah, exactly. So the Czech Republic, so it sounds like CH, instead of CZ, so ch, and then zh. It's a little confusing. It's actually considered to be one of the most difficult languages to learn, and it's the second widely used Slavic language after Russian. Something I learned when I was there, if you have a Polish person writing to you and they say, they refer to you as you, he, she, they, so they'll always capitalize a pronoun if they're speaking about you or to you as a form of respect. And I thought that was really cool. We don't do that in the English language. So it's a little extra form of respect. Okay, so now I would like to share with you a little bit about Poland's history. I know that you learned about World War II about a week or two ago, I believe. So I also put this in Polish because I will try my best to pronounce the words in Polish so you can hear the language. But this will be Historia Polski, so the Polish history. And if you notice, one difference is, you might notice these are backwards, right?
Yeah.
So that's how that's the dialogue, the diaphragm of the Polish language. So instead of Polish history, it would be Historia Polski. So I actually had the chance this place is called Westerplatte. So this is the place where World War II began. And it was a battle. This is where the German soldiers invaded Poland, Westerplatte. And it was actually, we'll look at this map here, it was right along the coast on the Baltic Sea. So this is where Germany invaded Poland during World War II. And it took about a week. So it was all the way from September 1st to the 7th in 1939. So on the 1st of September 1939, at about 4:45 a.m., a German battleship named the Schleswig-Holstein fired at the Polish garrison named Westerplatte. This is an actual picture of the ship. On the second day of the invasion, Germans then attacked from the air. So they first attacked by land and then they attacked by air. And they dropped about 26 tons of bombs on Westerplatte. What happened was they destroyed one of the guardhouses, a barrack, and it ruined all of the soldiers' food and medical equipment. And I wanted to point out, I didn't put on here, but during this whole battle of about a week, only 15 to 20 Polish soldiers died, as opposed to the 200 to 300 German soldiers at Westerplatte. So Polish soldiers were they fought really hard. They fought really, really hard. But they ended up losing this battle because all of their food and medical equipment were destroyed. And by this time, German soldiers had already made it to Warsaw, which is Poland's capital. So I wanted to show you, though, the barrack, the Westerplatte barrack that was destroyed. So it's still standing. I actually had a chance to go and walk in it and tour it. So this is what's left. This is where Polish soldiers were living. So this is what was destroyed. And my video will play. Let's see. But I have a video walking just to show you how damaged it was. So the staircases are all falling apart. And I thought it's a really cool video. It does more than just a picture, so I wanted to share the Westerplatte battle. So as I mentioned, the Polish soldiers fought really, really hard. But like I said, by this time they had already made it to Warsaw's capital. And this is important because at the same time, the Soviet troops were also making its way into Poland, and they were occupying now east of Poland. So let me move on to my next slide. So this was a popular form of attack that Hitler, that he did in a lot of countries that he invaded. So what he did was his goal is to cut off all lines of communication. So they executed Polish soldiers, post office workers, and railway workers to cut off all lines of communication. So this is an actual picture of that time frame where they were lining up the different workers outside of a shop. It's very sad, but this was their form of attack to take over the country. So this was Warsaw, the Poland's capital, after the invasion. So everything is just completely destroyed. They have a few buildings kind of outlined here, just the outskirts of it, but it was completely destroyed. So here is a quote when Hitler, he arrived about a week after the invasion, and this was a quote by Adolf Hitler. He said, to annihilate Poland, to shut empathy out of hearts, ruthless action, the strongest is right. So, I mean, ruthless is the right word for it. And this actually is a demonstration that I took from Westerplatte when I visited. So each location had a different monument to represent what happened at each post. At the very end, they built a monument in honor of everyone who defended Westerplatte in Poland. So the soldiers, the railroad workers, post office workers, and they have a kind of a sculpture. So it's hard to see from there probably, but these are the soldiers. In the middle, that's a symbol for the post office in Poland. And then up here, I'm not sure what that is, but anyway, it's a monument in honor of those who gave their life at Westerplatte, and that's located at the battle site. This word here says Nigdy Więcej Wolne, which means never again war. And that's located right under the monument. Okay, so the aftermath. About 5 million Polish citizens were killed in World War II. About 17%, so that's about 17% of Poland's population. That included 3 million Polish Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust. And right after that, I put this in kind of like quotes, care. Poland was left in the care of the communist Soviet Union. So I say care because they said that they were going to kind of come in and help take care of Poland after that, but they didn't. So I can give you a story that my husband shared with me that his grandma vividly remembers. His grandma had 7 kids, and communist soldiers came by and they would steal families' livestock. So they would steal their cows, they would steal their goats to feed their own soldiers. And his grandma stood there and said, "No, you're not taking mine," while she had a gun held to her head. So and they didn't kill her. But it was a very scary moment, but it was the only cow that her family had left. So when I say care, that's an example of what I mean. Okay, finally, some good news. On June 4th, 1989, Poland saw the end of communism. My husband was born in 1984, and he can remember standing in line with his parents. So when Poland was a communist country, people had to stand in line for their share of food, their portion of food, and sometimes families would get to a line. They would wait in line at 4 a.m. for their portion, and they would get to the end of the line and they would have nothing. There would be no food for them, and he remembers this to this day. Okay, so now I want to share some geography with you. So like I said, Poland has gorgeous mountains. That's probably the biggest difference than our state in Texas. They do have a coastline, they have rivers and lakes. They actually have more lakes than Texas. Texas has about 7,000 lakes and Poland has about 10,000. Okay, so I have never been here before, but I would love to go. This is in the small little town called Zakopane, and I'll show you where that is on the map in a minute. But it's referred to as the Polish Alps, and it's the highest range of the Carpathian Mountains, which go right along here. They're on the border of Slovakia as well, so I don't know if you can see that from here. So the Carpathian Mountains are right here, and that borders Slovakia. This is one of the lakes in the Tatra Mountains, so it's called Morskie Oko, and it's a very popular place to go and visit in the summers especially. I'm gonna check my time. Okay, so what I wanted to show you here is, this is where Zakopane is, right by Slovakia, and that's where the Tatra Mountains are. So, I usually spend my time here, and Zakopane is all the way down here. All right, Rysy Mountain is the highest mountain in Poland. And this is in the Tatra Mountains. So you can see the clouds here, see how high it is. And then I wanted to show you this because people do hike this mountain. And you can see how high it is because, like I said, the clouds are right here. And it's a huge accomplishment if you can hike this mountain.
What was the name of that?
The Tatra Mountains, or Rysy
Polish
Mountain.
Alps.
Okay. So going back to the Baltic Sea, where I spend a lot of my time, it's not like swimming in the Texas coast. It's very, very, very cold. Even in the summer, it's extremely cold. But this is in the town where my husband lives, in Gdynia. So it's right on the cusp of the Baltic Sea. Okay, now I want to share with you the architecture. This is one of my favorite topics about Europe because their architecture is very old, and we just don't have that in the U.S. because our country is so much younger than most European countries. Oh, and I'll try to say this. Polski architektura. That's the best I can do. Okay, so this place is called Old Town Gdańsk. This is also near where my husband lives. Their architecture dates back to being built in the 16th century, and it's modeled after a Renaissance style. And this actually survived most of World War I and World War II. A little video I can show you. Sorry if not really good. Did y'all see this big
Pirate ship.
There's a pirate ship. There's also, so this used to be used to, ships would come in and dock under, I forgot what this is called. It's not a mill, but ships used to they would kind of dock their boat under here while they were unloading different trades that they were trading with countries.
Like
So
the thing at Walmart, like where they put the trucks in the back.
kind of, but for ships. So like when countries were doing trades, they would put their boat underneath this. And it's now a museum. Okay, here's another city I wanted to share with you. This is called, I will try to pronounce it,
Wrocław.
Warsaw, Poland. This is actually a big university town. And most buildings were created in the 19th century, but the most fascinating thing is this is called Town Hall, and it was built in the 1200s. So 1299 to be exact, but it took another 250 years to be fully built. And when I was visiting this city, I was just so drawn to this building. I don't know why. Every time I passed it, I took another picture, and my husband would say, "You already took a picture of that. You already took a picture of that." I just thought it was really beautiful. And to show you a little more of the architecture, I have a video. So it's very colorful, and some people even live in these units. Some are shops, some are stores, but some people live there. All right, so moving on, transportation. So in Poland, they do have cars. And the most popular car now is a BMW. That's why I put a BMW right here. You will also see their license plates look a little different. So they're a little longer. Ours are kind of short, but theirs are longer. So a car is becoming more and more popular to drive a car. However, that's really considered a luxury. Not all families have a car. If they do, they only have one and they share, and they get around just fine because unlike Texas, at least, we don't have other modes of transportation. I know in New York, San Francisco, bigger cities, they have other means of transportation. Here's one, it's called a tramway. So this is kind of like a train, but it moves on a line. So it's connected to a line, and that's how it's transported. So tramway, you have a bus and a train. I would say train is probably the most common way to get around. Okay, and I wanted just to show you this, what cars used to look like, especially in the communism era. You sometimes still will see these cars driving around. And again, I wanted to show you a close-up of the license plate. Okay, I'm not going to show the whole video of this, but I wanted to show you, I'm going to talk to you now about homes in Poland, what those look like, so a little extension of architecture. This is a typical home during World War II, and what you'll see is on the outside it doesn't look like a home at all, and it was for protection. So soldiers weren't suspicious and they didn't see it as a home. It more just looked like a building. So let me play. This is a video of I'm meeting my husband's grandfather for the first time. It's a little dark. I'm a little awkward. I was nervous, okay? But I wanted to show you the building, the house.
Yeah?
So if you can kind of see, it just looks like a concrete building. So we do a handshake when we meet people, and you'll see what he will do in a minute. I wasn't realizing that Polish people, they do a kiss here, and a kiss here when you are greeting somebody, not a stranger, but family. So I wasn't expecting that, otherwise you probably would have done 3 kisses. But I went in a little bit unaware. So if you ever go to Poland or another Eastern European country, that's a common way to greet a family member or friend. So you can kind of hear. Okay, so now we're going to go around the outside of the house, and you'll see the house is actually kind of behind it. So you turn the corner, and that's where the house is. Okay, for the sake of time,